Hi. I woke up today with a kind of a sense of urgency about doing another Inner Ramana video, which is a bit funny because I haven't done one, I don't think, in over a year. But I am going to share today from the teachings of Inner Ramana, and I'm going to share from a message called The Circus and the Meadow, which is on page 17. And this particular message is a lot of people's favorite message. Let me just start by reading from the top of the message. The mind is very active. If you watch it, you will see it is much like acrobats in a circus. It is always jumping this way and that, bending and turning, and it has some very amazing moves. But it is a circus. It is not at all representative of reality. In fact, it is a complete distraction from reality. You will never notice reality if you remain focused on the circus act of the mind. So this is a theme that we've seen since the beginning of the book, The Teachings of Inner Ramana, that the mind just tells stories, and those stories have nothing to do with reality. In an earlier video, I recommended that people just journal what is going on in your mind, what your mind is telling you. If you pay attention to your mind over any length of time, you will notice it has all kinds of stories about what other people are thinking about you. It has all kinds of stories about what other people's intentions are. It even has stories about what your intentions are. And chances are you believe those stories, but they're still just stories. And what Inner Ramana is telling us is the reason we keep listening to those stories is that we're very, very entertained by them, just like we're entertained by the acrobats in a circus. The teachings of Inner Ramana continues. So our primary interest is to lose interest in the mind. It is very tempting to pay attention to it, just as a great circus act catches the desires of your attention. But deep within you, there is a desire that wants to settle within the meadows that surround the circus tent more than you want to be caught up in the circus. This is another part of awakening. Another part of awakening is discovering that we actually love the stillness, the quiet, the true self, more than this circus act of a mind. And one way that we discover that is through contrast. By just being caught up in the mind through our habit, and by really paying attention and noticing, just how crazy and inconsistent the mind is. And then also by taking time each day to be still, spending time in contemplation with inspirational materials, spending time in meditation, and noticing how much we love that time with ourself. Actually, I'm reminded right now of a line at the end of Bob Marley's song, I Shot the Sheriff. And the line says something like, every day the bucket goes to the well, or I guess it's if every day the bucket goes to the well, one day the bottom will drop out. And when I hear that line by itself, what that says to me is that if every day I take time to go and be with the self in contemplation and meditation and really recognize how much I love that, one day the bottom, the addiction to the thinking mind, the little self, one day the bottom will drop out and I will just be in self. So by both observing the craziness of the mind and by observing how much I truly do love that quiet, still attention with the self, awareness of the self, eventually I will be drawn away from the thinking mind and into the self. In fact, Ramana Maharshi in lifetime used the example of the self, or sometimes he called it the heart, as being a magnet. And that the magnet will just draw us to it. But what we need to do is we need to give that magnet, we need to give that experience of stillness a chance so that we can see how much we are in love with it. Just continuing with this message, the circus and the meadow. So we are turning our attention from the ups and downs and spins and tumbles of the mind to the everlasting tranquility of the meadows. And there is much happening in the meadows too, but it is real, which is much different than the circus. It seems that this last parenthetical statement about there's a lot happening in the meadows too was probably added because of a fear, because of a thought that the meadows are nothing. The meadows are everlasting boredom, nothing, and that we actually need the entertainment of the mind. It's important for us to realize that this thought is there. But again, we can experiment ourselves by both noticing when we're in the habitual thinking of the mind, noticing how crazy that is, noticing the emotions that come and go and the shift and the changes, and then also noticing that time we take every day to be in stillness, to be in contemplation, and notice how that feels. Through noticing the difference between the craziness and the stillness, we recognize that we really do love the stillness more. The thought that we would be bored in the stillness, or that the stillness is not enough for us, is just another thought thrown at us by the crazy thinking mind. True stillness cannot be achieved by quieting the mind through meditative practices for part of the day, and then being wrapped up in the stories of the mind the rest of the day. This is like running in and out of the circus. Sure, you may experience and know the tranquility of the meadow, but you are still addicted to the hype of the circus. The circus remains real for you. You will never be free through partial abidance. Only total abidance can be totally freeing. So what happens as we begin to observe our time with the crazy mind and our time in contemplation and meditation, and we learn that we really love the stillness more, then what happens is we start to have a desire to extend this stillness beyond that special time when maybe we're sitting in a special chair in contemplation or meditation. As we get up and go about our day, involved in our work, involved with our families, involved with our friends, we want to carry that stillness with us. We don't want to return to the hype of the circus anymore because we're realizing that our joy does not come from the circus. In fact, our suffering, our anxiety, our stress, our fear, our sorrow, that's what comes from the circus. And so we start having a craving to carry it with us throughout the day. But many of us do not have the type of life where we can be in stillness by sitting still. We have to get up and move around. That's just the way this body is being moved, this personality is being moved. So the question becomes, how do I stay in the stillness even when I have to get up out of my chair? I'm going to skip a paragraph in order to answer that question. And Inner Ramana says, "This is the purpose of the mantra I have given you. It consistently and repeatedly throughout the day turns your attention from the circus and back toward the meadow, which is your truest of desires. Wear the mantra like a layer of clothing. Practice it throughout the day, whatever you are doing. The mantra cannot be practiced too much, as we are teaching the mind, through desire, to remain still." Again, the thinking mind is a habit. It's a habit that we are actually addicted to, and we go back to it again and again. But as we become aware that we really don't want this habit anymore, as our heart is really singing to us that we want to stop getting caught up in the story's minds and the story's frets and worries, then the mantra becomes our new love, our new layer of clothing. Because as soon as I notice my mind is caught up in the stories again, I can say the mantra, I am that I am. And no matter what I'm doing, I can return to that stillness. And if I do that over and over and over again, then eventually my love of the stillness itself will help me to stay in the stillness instead of consistently returning back to the circus, the thinking mind. All right, I guess that's what I wanted to share today. Have a great day. Bye.